Hello everybody and welcome to another IELTS Learning Tips video. My name's Bernie Wall, and if you haven't met me before, then I'm an IELTS trainer specialising in working with students who need bands 7 and 8, and especially students who've taken the exam a few times and are stuck in maybe around 6.5 or not getting everything they need. So in this video today, I want to look at planning your work. Every day I see messages on Facebook and I get messages in my inbox from students who say either they don't know where to start or they are stuck and they're not making progress and they're not quite sure how they should organize their work. And the thing about learning a language is that you need a lot of repetition and you need a lot of regular short bursts of study. And that's the best way to work on a language. Unless, of course, you're immersed in a country where that language is used, and then you will be surrounded by it. But if you're studying in your own place, or if you don't have a lot of access to English, then the best thing is to try and replicate that by having a lot of repetition regularly and preferably every single day. So I want to show you how you can organize your study so that you can make this happen within your own learning context. So as usual, I have a short slideshow to share with you with some points that I want to go through. And let's see if this can help you to organize your study, because things you focus on will improve. And I'm sure you've all had this experience where you focused on a particular question type, or you might have focused on a particular part of the IELTS exam, and you found that the scores have gone up. So imagine that's what you need to do for the whole exam and for every aspect of your language learning, including vocabulary and grammar, as well as the reading, listening, speaking and writing. So managing your study well so that you can include focus on all of these things is very important. So let's have a look and see how you can have a good plan. So firstly, why should you need to have a good plan? And also, why should you work this plan? So I know other students who spend a lot of time, and I'm sometimes guilty of this myself, working out a really wonderful plan, but then not sticking to it or having too many days off. So it's important to work your plan as well as formulate it. So if you don't have a plan, it's difficult to monitor your progress or see your progress. And your progress might not be linear, it might be kind of sporadic or ad hoc. And so you won't go in a step-by-step way up to your exam date. You won't know what to do. And this is something that people tell me a lot. They don't know how to organize their study. So every day they'll just go onto YouTube or they'll go onto a website and they'll just do some random listening or reading, which is not wasted because everything you do is good, but it's not systematic. And so it won't take you in a progressive way towards the exam. So you should also be planning each week as well as each day, and look at what works. So if you don't monitor your work, if you don't monitor what's going on, then you won't know what's working and what's not working, and you won't know what's giving you the best results. So you may be doing a lot of things that are not particularly helpful. And remember, 80% of what you do produces 20% of your results. That's the 80-20 rule. So there's a lot of stuff happening that probably isn't focused. And sorry, that was the wrong way around. I mean, 20% of what you do will give you 80% of your results. So a lot of what you're doing is not resulting in anything. So it's important to monitor. Okay. And then do more of it every day. So if this particular thing is working and you can see that your scores are improving or your writing's improving or your speaking's improving, then do more of that and less of the other things. Okay, so these things are not going to help you get the band you want in your exam. Okay, it's good to be hopeful, it's good to dream, it's good to think of the future, but that alone will not get you your band 7 and 8s in the exam. Neither will crossing your fingers and hoping that this time it's your turn. Or relying on 1 or 2 modules. Okay, if you want an overall score, then possibly you can rely on your listening and reading, for example, or your listening and speaking to get you through. But a lot of people, when they ask you for an overall score, they also ask you for a minimum band in every module. So you generally have to get a certain level in everything. So relying on the listening to get you that higher score is not necessarily going to get you the band that you want, because if you get into the exam and the listening is very difficult, or something happens in the listening and you haven't focused on the other parts, then you're lost before you get started. The same here. Ignoring half the test. I see again and again and again people who take the exam who get sort of 8s and 8.5s and 7.5s in listening and reading, and 6s and 6.5s in speaking and writing. It's really important to focus all the time on all the parts. Yeah, I know a lot of people that just keep taking the exam hoping that it's going to be their lucky day. This is really not a good strategy. And then not making sure you're on track. So that means booking your test before you started your preparation, because until you know exactly where you are, you don't know how long it's going to take. So if you book your exam, say for 2 months hence, and then you discover that you are actually only at level band 5 or 5.5, 2 months is not going to be enough to get you to 7s and 8s. So you must make sure exactly where you are now before you even consider booking a test, because you need to know how long it's going to take you. And then copying your friends. People with language have different strengths and weaknesses. So just because your friend did really well in their speaking and listening doesn't necessarily mean that your strengths lie there. It could be that your strengths lie in reading and writing. So don't just copy what your friends are doing and look at what the work is that they're doing. Find out for yourself where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. Okay. I get scared myself as a teacher and as a former examiner. I get scared when I hear this. Students going into the exam and they haven't practiced at all. I was speaking to somebody just last week who has an exam booked, I think it's this coming Saturday, so 2 weeks from when I spoke to her, and she has maybe spent 2 days preparing for the test. And it's just so foolhardy when students keep trying it to see if they're going to get any better. If you're going to pay this money, because the exam is not cheap, if you're going to pay this money to do the exam, you really need and owe it to yourself to do as much as you have to do to make sure that when you go into that exam, you're going to get the score that you want. This also, I see lots of advice online from other students and sometimes from teachers. And when I look at some of that advice, I know from my 20+ years of being an IELTS trainer and my 6 years of being an IELTS examiner, I know that what they are being told is wrong. Not just, not good advice, but actually wrong. The grammar is wrong, or the spelling is wrong, or the advice is wrong. And it makes me quite scared that there's so much information out there that is quite wrong. And you have to be very careful that you get good advice on what to do. And this is one of the things that worries me. Just because somebody gets band 7, it doesn't mean that they are equipped to teach you. I know lots of students who can go to a native speaker, and remember, native speakers have English. I'm not saying they get 9 in their exam because you have to prepare for it, but they would not make mistakes with their English, not at all. If they didn't get 9, it would be for some other reason, like they didn't say enough, they didn't write enough, they didn't use the right style, lots of other things, but it would never be about language. So a native speaker could tell you when something was wrong in your writing or in your speaking, but they wouldn't necessarily be able to teach you how to avoid making that mistake. And I believe the same is true with students who get band 7. They can tell you how they got band 7, but it's not necessarily going to work for you because, as I said before, all students have different strengths and weaknesses. The difference between a student with band 7 and 8, and even 8.5 and 9, and a teacher is that teachers know how. So stop asking the question, what do I do? And ask the question, how do I do it? And if you ask the question, how, then you're going to get the right advice and the right information. And teachers are trained to show you how to do this. People who just get a high band and native speakers who are not teachers do not know how to show you. So be very careful with the advice that you get. And this is another thing. I've had many students of mine who, against my advice, booked 3, 4, 5 tests all at once, one after another. And it means, firstly, they're not confident that they can get the exam in one test. And secondly, what tends to happen is that the tests get worse and worse as they go through because the confidence begins to erode. So it's not a good idea to jump in and book 3 or 4 tests. Apart from the expense, it's probably going to be negative for you. It's going to be counterproductive. Okay, this is a given. Language needs repetition. I've been a language teacher since the 1970s, late 1970s. I had my first lesson teaching English language. And I know that in order to learn a language, and I've learned languages myself, I learned French, I learned German, I learned Indonesian and Japanese and Chinese. I've learned them all at a particular time. I'm not particularly wonderful anymore in any of them, but I did manage to get a couple of them up to fluency. And I know that the best way of learning a language is to repeat, repeat, repeat. So everything you do needs to be repeated. So 30 minutes a day is much better than 4 hours of slog on a Sunday evening. You need to cover everything. So you need to be doing listening at least every other day, reading at least every other day, speaking every day if possible, writing at least every other day. If you do 1 week of listening, 1 week of reading, it's not going to be as good. A lot of students say, I'm doing listening now. When I've done listening, I'm going to do reading. Okay, I'll tell you what will happen there. While you're doing reading, listening will go away. While you're doing writing, reading will go away because they're all interconnected. This is language and you have to have all the balls in the air at once. This is really important. If you don't record your progress, you won't know where you are and then you won't know where to focus. So record your progress. How did I get on here? And if you want to know how to record your progress well, if you go to my website, which is IELTSlearningtips.com, you'll find under the free resources that I have a learning plan. And in that learning plan, which you can download for nothing, and you can use it for your study, it shows you how to record your progress, how to assess what you do today and decide what you need to do more practice with and what you're happy with, and you can probably leave for a couple of days before you do it again. So have a look there and you can download that learning plan and it will help you to monitor and record progress. And when you do that, you will be able to see the areas that keep coming up as causing errors, and then you can focus on those to improve them. This is something students usually do. They do the whole test, they put it away. Tomorrow they do another whole test, they put it away. It's not the best way of studying a language. you should really be doing the whole test as test practice just before you do the exam. Up until that point, you need to be building your skills, working on your skills, improving your vocabulary, checking on the grammar points you don't know, using the internet to research topics and ideas for topics for your writing and your speaking. This is your preparation phase. This is not testing. This is about learning, improving skills, and building competence. So don't just go through tests. As a teacher, when I work with students in a classroom situation, I wouldn't touch the tests until maybe 2 weeks, maximum 3 weeks before the exam. The rest of the time in that class, we would be learning about building listening skills, building reading skills, improving writing, and all of those things that are vital to get a high score. And obviously this takes time, so don't rush. If you rush it too much, all that will happen is you end up spending a fortune on repeating the exam. Okay, so if you haven't got a plan and you want a plan, then I would love to talk to you to help you formulate a plan. So if you want to speak to me, here are some ways in which you can contact me. Now, these pieces of information should be underneath the video, but you can take them from this slide as well. So either my email, berniew@englishlanguagetraining.co.uk, or Bernadette Wall on Facebook, or here's my Facebook group. It's IELTS Band 7 and 8 Success Tips and Strategies. And that should be below the video. So any of those ways will put you in touch with me. I would love to speak to you, talk about where you are now in your IELTS, find out where you want to be, and then put in some sort of plan or support to help you get there. So just send me a message, and then I'll let you know how we can get in touch with each other and have a conversation. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope this is useful. Please do think about your planning so that you don't waste a lot of time and waste a lot of money. And I'll see you on the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.